All right. So I'm going to be very respectful. I hope you will as well. Okay, so you've heard it said, vote your conscience. But what the heck does that mean? You know, we're going to look into that tonight. What place does politics have in the life of a Christian? Some would say that it has no place. In fact, they may be onto something because we see that Jesus was not involved in the politics of his day. But why? Why was Jesus not involved in the politics of his day? I answered that question in a blog post that I'm going to be releasing tomorrow, or maybe even after this sermon. I don't know. But the whole thing, because I didn't want to take up all night talking about that, is it basically takes us on a trip through church history and world history from the time of Israel becoming a nation all the way up until the civil rights movement and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to check that out, be watching my Facebook page, Mikey Littaw on Facebook, whatever. So others say that we are required to vote and to pay attention to what's going on around us in our world today. But why? Here's our problem. We are a blog culture, right? And I just wrote one. But we are a blog culture, and we develop. How many times has anybody? Okay, I'm just going to ask. I'm going to poll the audience, live poll. How many of you have ever posted an article, reposted something, and you hadn't read the article? Anybody? Raise your hand. Anybody? If you did, it's okay. It's okay. You did it once or twice. No one's going to judge you. Okay, who here has reposted a political piece of any kind? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you are tired of reading about politics altogether? Right? Yeah. Everybody in the room. Okay. So should we throw our hands up and just say, forget about it. I'm just going to pay attention to what's going on in my world right here at WT. Or should we get in these crazy, wild Facebook fights and otherwise over here? No, what? Right? and so my question is, why can't we have a civil discussion about politics anymore? Why does it have to get so freaking crazy? I've actually lost real friends and Facebook friends over this topic. And I'm literally just wanting to ask questions, and then boom. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to fight. I'm literally just asking you, why do you believe this way? I just want to understand what's going on. I think I missed the memo somewhere. I need to understand where you're coming from. Does that make sense? Saint Francis of Assisi, I think he said, may we seek more to understand than be understood. And there's a whole long prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. I think that's the right one. I'm going to post tomorrow another blog. I'm going to repost a blog from the pastor of Redeemer Church, my friend David. He did one, and it was on the Amarillo website and everything like that, about this very topic, about how we can disagree agreeably. You got two guys in Jesus' very band of merry men. You've got Matthew the tax collector, who's kind of working for Rome, and then you've got Simon the Zealot. The Zealot is like a guy who's trying to overthrow Rome, and you got them both in the same company of guys, right? So we can disagree agreeably, and I think that needs to be our purpose in life from now on. Amen. So should I wash my hands of all this and just pay attention to what's going on in my own city and my own local government? Because after all, the president, people will say, well, it doesn't really matter anyway who the president is. Well, if that be so, then why, was it so important to have Barack Obama be the first black president? If it's not important, if the president isn't important. Why does Hillary push so much the first woman being the first woman president thing if it's not important? Something that girls can look up to and all that kind of stuff. A president does matter. Why? Because they set the tone of leadership in a nation. They set. It could be argued that certain presidential speeches have actually turned the tide of history. Look back at ones from Abraham Lincoln. Look back at ones around FDR. There are presidential speeches that have given people courage to stand up and change things. The president does matter. I'm going to tell you that. Maybe he's limited in his political power, his policy power, and he can make legislative decisions and stuff like that. But his influence is very powerful. So it is important who this person is. So it does matter. So do I vote? Here's the next question. Do I vote for the person or the platform or the party? You know, who am I voting for here? Because this election cycle got really crazy with WikiLeaks, and it got really crazy with like the Trump, grabbing people by things and stuff. And so it's like, wait a minute, whoa. I know a lot of Democrats, I know a lot of Republicans. I don't think anybody's too real happy about either candidate, right? Right. To which everyone's like, we've got to do the third party. To which everyone's like, no, then you'll throw away the votes, and then the evil of the other evil will win, right? How many of you guys are already uncomfortable? Or maybe we should just write a vote in for some random guy or Harambe or something like that, just to, just to prove a point or something. So let's get into this. Can we vote? Can we be a Christian and vote for Hillary? Just a joke. Okay. Can you be a Christian and vote for Hillary? Does it mean that I think it's okay for a president to lie, to the people? Does it mean that I'm okay with leaving those soldiers deserted in Benghazi? Does it mean that I think you should run out and get an abortion just whenever you feel like it? Can you be a Christian and vote for Donald Trump? Does that mean that I'm racist if I do? Does it mean that I hate women if I do? Does it mean that I want to ship all the Mexicans to Mexico? Does it mean that I have sinned if I vote for him? Because I've had a friend that tell me that I did. I haven't voted yet, but if I had voted for Trump, then I had sinned. Have you sinned? Well, maybe we can look at this from several different angles and see which one kind of comes to the top. What are the biblical values, so to speak? What are the biblical values that someone can vote their conscience? Let's look into the question of, do I vote for the person or the platform / party? Let's start with the person. Okay, I asked, can you be a Christian and vote for Hillary? I'm going to talk about so I'm going to, Democrat, I'm going to be over here, okay? And then Republican, I'm going to be over here just to kind of save time. Okay, so R and D. D and R, okay. Okay, so Hillary, okay. Do I think it's okay for a president to lie, to her people? Does that mean I'm okay with them leaving soldiers defenseless in Benghazi? How many of you guys seen 13 Hours? Anybody? Yeah, okay. So that's that whole story, and if you want to go do some more research, do some research on that. Does it mean that I think you should run out and get an abortion whenever you like to? Okay, so the Christians who are Democrats that I know, who are voting voting Democrat, even though they're not Democrat, whatever you want to call it, they would say, no, that doesn't mean that I think this or I think that or I think that. It doesn't mean that we're letting her off the hook for the wrong she's done. She's done some bad things. They'd say it's not okay to lie to your people, as a president, sure. Can't go over here, that's Republican, okay. About Benghazi, they'd say, listen, as Secretary of State, you have to make some really tough decisions. And rather than creating a war with Libya, we had to sacrifice a few soldiers. That could be argued, right? And Libya is more than about going to war with another government. We're actually dealing with a potential overreaction from U.S. citizens against all Muslims. Because there's a core value at stake here, a core value of racism, which I believe that's a different issue because I don't think race and religion I think those are two different things, but that would be lumped together as xenophobia or people being afraid of Muslims. The same thing happened in 2001 when the Twin Towers were struck, and then everybody kind of went nuts, and a bunch of Muslims got beat up all over the country because of what a couple of guys did to the Twin Towers, right? So they know that it's like there's this powder keg of a bunch of potential problem, it's like a dynamite ready to go off. And so by leaving 4 guys in Benghazi, we potentially kept from starting a war against Islam altogether. And this is another reason why many Democrats will not say Islamic terrorism, because they don't want the mass public to go crazy on Muslims, right? There's something to be said about that. It would say, man, that was one incident. Let's keep working on diplomatic solutions instead of going over, because we all hated the war, or at least everybody says they hated the war now, over there. And so let's just keep working on diplomatic solutions with Islam. And let's downplay the fact that it was Islam so we don't face greater danger of racism against Islam. You guys following with me so far? You tracking? Okay. And no, it's not good to get an abortion. In fact, and this is what Hillary said on the last debate, I watched the whole thing. There's a long process that a girl has to go through to get an abortion, she says. And if the baby is going to have severe defects, that will affect its quality of life, this is kind of where they're coming from. If the mother's life is in jeopardy, or if the mother can't take care of this baby. And by the way, a friend of mine I was just talking to that is from Chicago and voting, I think, liberal Democrat, or just at least liberal, said that, adoption, asking a woman to adopt is like having a stillborn baby, because you have all these, connections with this baby and everything, and then it's ripped out of your arms. It's almost like it never lived. And so that's why it's so hard to ask women to adopt. Okay. This is a very difficult decision to have to make, and should not be forced on them by the government. That's where the Democrats are coming from. So can you be a Christian and vote for Donald Trump? Does it mean I'm racist? Does it mean I hate women? Does it mean I want to ship out the Mexicans? And does it mean I have sinned? All right. No, it actually doesn't mean any of that. Republicans will say, well, okay, why do you think he's racist? And you guys might even laugh, right? You've been told he's racist over and over and over, right? Right. Okay, so let me just poll you on how many of you guys actually believe Donald Trump is racist. Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, a few. Okay, I've figured a lot more you would think that. Maybe you're like, oh, I can't because Mikey's about to say otherwise. I don't know if he's racist or not. All I know is that a lot of people have told me that he's racist. I don't actually know that he is. But they'll say, but Mikey, all the people at the rallies are definitely racist. They're saying some really racist things. Okay, that's great. I don't know about all the people, but yes, the cameras did capture a lot of that going on at the rallies, and it's also been found that it was a secret tape showing Hillary's political machine, actually planting people in Trump rallies to try to incite violence so that they would get beat up, and then the cameras would catch that and make everybody who supports Trump look like a racist, right? But there are a lot of followers who are racist that weren't audience plants. You got a good point, but maybe that's just an unfair judgment. There's maybe they're just a lot of followers who are, maybe. Sorry, lost my place. Maybe, but that might be an unfair judgment to say, hey, that'd be like saying everybody at the Wesley, is just like me. Then you guys might say some jacked up crap I would never say, right? You don't represent me. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe we're kind of alike. I don't know. But, if I said something jacked up, you'd be like, whoa, hold on. You know what I mean? We're individuals here. Okay, so I'd say maybe, but that's an unfair judgment. What has he actually said? Well, he wants to kick out all the Mexicans, right? No, he doesn't want to kick out all the Mexicans. In fact, I've listened to a lot of his speeches, and the clips they take out, from CNN and MSNBC really make it look a lot weirder than it really is. You watch it in context, like, oh, that makes sense. We need secure borders. Why? So say somebody came over to your house. Somebody as a visitor came over to your house, but they didn't come to your door, right? They broke your side window, right? And they crawled in through the side window, and they started moving all your furniture around and took your TV and sold it, right? And that doesn't have anything to do with politics. I'm just saying, what if somebody did this to your house? And then you come in, you're like, whoa, dude, I was just inviting you over for dinner, and you started changing everything. Now, what am I talking about when I'm talking about changing everything? I'm talking about the Constitution here. Talking that Republicans believe, I think from a Republican would say that we believe in the Constitution, like it's kind of like what kind of keeps everything fair and in the realm, right? We have to have secure borders. We're saying and Trump's even said this, we have to make getting citizenship a lot easier because it's a broken system right now. We need to streamline this. We need to help this. We're not going to ship everybody out, and that kind of stuff. He hadn't said that. That's as far as I've seen. I've watched a lot of his rallies. He's not going to ship everybody out. He's going to try to find a system to make everybody, to make it easier to get people in, but you got to get in through the right, proper channels. In fact, every sovereign nation in earth has a border, has fences. If you didn't have walls around your house, you wouldn't have a house, right? Right? You have to have, like my bedroom is separate from Macy's bedroom, which is separate from Eli's bedroom, right? Anyway, okay. So the idea is that if you embrace the ideals of the U.S. and its Constitution and respect other people's freedoms too. So I have the freedom to shoot a gun, but I'm not shooting it in my front yard where it might hurt my neighbor, right? So I'm respecting their rights too and their freedoms too. I'm paying my taxes. Everyone's expected to pay taxes and to get citizenship in the right way, in the proper way, then come on in. But if you're coming over with Sharia law and trying to tell everybody what they can and can't do because it offends your religion and trying to shut down everybody else's freedoms, then hold on, wait a minute. We need to have a talk here. Does that make sense? So, polling the audience, how many of you guys think it's important to have sovereign borders? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. Okay, how many don't think we need to have sovereign borders? It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you don't. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so the person aside, and both people have been pretty jacked up, and we're all scratching our head wondering how the heck this happened. I don't know about you guys, but I am. I'm like, we had Ben Carson, dude. We could have had Ben Carson. This guy was legit. And by the way, I think he could have bridged a lot of the racial gap that we have today. I think he could have done it. He could have helped at least. I don't know. Anyway, we are where we are. Okay, so let's ask this. Okay, so that's where, let's start with the Christian Republicans. What from a Christian point of view, what's the most important thing to Christian Republicans? And I think the thing that rose to the top for me was this, from what I know about Republicans. The linchpin for Christian Republicans usually has to do with abortion. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30:19. Now, I got scriptures for both sides, by the way, so here we go. Now we're going to, let's put the person aside because the people are just freaking crazy. So let's go on to the platforms. Okay, Deuteronomy 30:19. I call heaven and earth as witness against you that I have set before you life and death. I've given you the choice of life and death, blessings and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that you and your descendants may live. Choose life. Choose life. I think from a Christian standpoint, we believe all life is sacred. All life. And that starts at conception. All life is sacred. And so it's very, very important, that we don't kill or abort babies. Like that's like it's almost like many Christians are like, that's as far as I go. I mean, until we stop that thing, I don't even care about the economy. That's where we got to stop this massacre, this genocide. We got to stop it. So, but if you don't provide quality reproductive health care for women, they're going to go out and get dangerous back alley abortions, right? And that could be very dangerous for both the baby and the person. Right, but it's human life, and we can't make murder legal. We just can't. We can't do that. That would be like saying that the Nazi Germany was okay with the concentration camps. That's mass genocide. It's no different. Life is life. But it just depends on when you think life begins. To which they would say, no constitutional rights for babies until they're born, the day they're born. In fact, I got a quote from her saying that. And that's what Roe versus Wade says. But it's a human life. We can't make murder legal. But what about the health of the mother? If she will die in childbirth, you're basically saying that the government has the right to make her die, to kill her. Okay? Well, no one is saying that if the mother's life is truly in danger, that the doctor isn't going to do everything he can to save both lives, and if it comes down to one, he's going to, that's just an issue that they'll have to deal with. But less than 1% of abortions are for the health of the mother, less than 1%. But yet that's the big one that is thrown out there. And this is big to Republicans. They're like, no. It's more of a thing like you got pregnant and you don't want to deal with the consequences. And on that ideology of health of the mother, that could be a really gray line, because now we can get into mental health. And now it's mentally not healthy for me to have this baby. I might go crazy if I have this baby because it's too much responsibility. So I could actually kill a baby because I feel like it's going to hurt my mental health. On physical health of the mother, though, medical advancements are so much that women dying in childbirth is way less than 1%. Republicans would say that there are alternatives. Adoption, yes, I know, and we just said it's hard. It's like having a stillborn. We said that. But we're dealing with human life here. At the point of conception, we believe that God has created life. And so this is very, very important. Some, not all, but it is just a fetus. Then why is it deemed a double homicide when someone kills a mom and an unborn baby? But just a procedure when a mom does it. So who's to decide when life is life? It's the mom. The mom says, I choose that this is life or it's not life. And that's not really good. An unborn baby doesn't have constitutional rights until it's born. And hey, we're not saying it's an easy decision or a good one, but that a woman has a right to make decisions of her own body, but it's a different body now. That's not your body, that's someone else's body. Okay, so that's the big one for Republicans. Now let's go to the Democrats. Where are Christian Democrats come from? You know, ones who are Bible-believing, solid, awesome men and women of God. Where are they coming from? They have this huge passion for the underprivileged. Like Jesus says in Matthew 25, that whatever you've done to the least of these, that's what you've done to me. And so when you see the homeless and you do nothing, like you've done that to Jesus, right? And so they're like, we need to do something to help poverty. We need to help those who are minorities. We need to do something to help the least of these, the least, the lost, and the overlooked. You know, we need to do something to help them. You know, the people who are the last, the least, and the lost, who get overlooked by the powerful and the important. And it's not right that the important people or the powerful people or the people with money get to do all these things, you know, and these people are barely scraping by, barely surviving, right? That makes sense, right? It made sense to me. The government has to stand in the gap and level the playing ground to make things fair. This is where laws over labor and overtime and stuff like that, making sure bosses aren't taking advantage of employees. They step in to privatize businesses and create laws so that they can't screw over the customer or make monopolies. Anybody ever play Monopoly? Right? Yeah, they're coming in there saying no monopolies, right? They're trying to keep business fair and stuff like that. In fact, we'll tax businesses so that we can redistribute to the poor people and help out the poor people, because the rich have something they need to give to the poor. That's from their point of view. They have passion to protect minorities. The story of the Good Samaritan would be a big narrative for the Democrat, right? You're walking along, you have nothing to do with this guy, but you see him beat up and you see him bloody and you see him bruised and everything, and so you know all the people that were his own race, his own religion, his own ethnicity, his own socioeconomical whatever, pass right by him. But this Samaritan, somebody has nothing to do with him. He's not even connected with the guy. He's in fact an enemy of the guy. He stops and he helps this guy, puts him on his donkey, bandages him up, takes him to an inn, and pays for the whole thing. This will be a Democrat's like kind of theme parable, right? To kind of say this is important. This is how we need to treat people who are underprivileged, or people who are stuck in hard times, or people that single moms, and I'm thinking about the elderly, and we're thinking about like the people in the inner cities, who are stuck in cycles of poverty. We got to get in there and do something. That's what they would say. The LGBT community, is a minority and has to be protected, and we need to fight for their rights. The impoverished. All the stuff going on with Black Lives Matter and the police officers doing brutally crazy, stupid stuff, you know what I mean? Not all of them, but the ones that get caught, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, why aren't you guys doing anything about this? Why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you standing up for them? And then if we're not careful, we're over here saying, yeah, but all lives matter, and you know what I mean? and they're like, yeah, but what you don't understand is when you say that, what you're saying is that for all these decades, all these years, no one's thought Black Lives mattered. And now that we're saying, hey, we're here, hey, we matter, now you're sitting over here saying, dude, all lives matter. It's no big deal. Just get over it, And that's not okay either, right? Okay. All right. Don't shout me down. You guys still with me? Did I make you fall asleep yet? I'm just arguing with myself up here. I actually do this all the time. This is how I live my life. That's why I always look like I'm so serious. I'm arguing with myself. It's like doing this all day long. Okay, so also those are minorities, immigrants. Things were crazy, poverty down, in Mexico where things were going bad there, and then the cartels and all that. They got across to America. They got a new start. They lived 20 years, and here's this guy over here, Donald Trump, trying to kick out, split up families. Is that what's going to happen? Well, it's not going to happen. That's what they wanted to happen. We got to stop that, We need to, and refugees. We need someone to step in and regulate. It was wrong. I'm over here, okay? It was wrong for any person in our boundaries to not have access to education and hospitals and health care. Why do only the rich people get to have things? If we're not careful, though, on this side, if we're not careful, we will start to look at rich people like they're evil people. Has anybody ever done that? There's enough of us that aren't rich that we can look over and be like, rich people suck, they're evil. You look at the 1%, and man, that just has devil horns on it, right? The 1% has 90% of all the money. They're evil people. Have you ever met one of the 1%ers, by the way? There's a lot of them, like Bill Gates, who spends, millions of dollars helping people. You know what I mean? Like, he makes things happen, but that's beside the point. We need to be careful not to demonize rich people, and we need to be careful not to demonize poor people, like homeless people. Oh, they just want our money to go buy alcohol. We can't demonize either one, can we? Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so it's wrong for anybody in our borders to not have education, hospitals, healthcare, that kind of thing. And the way to do that is to take away from the rich people and to give it to the poor, kind of like Robin Hood. And the problem is that some people have been given everything and others have not been given a fair shake. So we need to level the playing ground, and it's the government's job to do that. They would say the next thing, Christianity is basically socialism, right? Democrats and liberals would say this really lines up more with Jesus' teachings than what's it starts to see? I just went lost. Capitalism, right? To which I would argue just a little bit. Parable of the talents. Remember what happens in the parable of the talents? Jesus gives, or the master gives 10 to one, 5 to one, and 1 to the other. The guy with 1, the guy that didn't have much, and he didn't do anything with it, and he just hid it and just kind of laid around all day and hid it. Jesus comes and he takes it away from him, gives it to the rich guy. So there is some case for capitalism. But on the other side, I'm getting everybody hating me tonight. All right, on the other side, lost my place again. Socialism, right? We go to Acts 2, and they sold everything that they had, and they helped each other out, right? And they sold what they had, and they spread it out amongst each other. And this is basically socialism, right? A redistribution of wealth. Socialism is the idea that individuals are not greater than the whole, and that everyone shares what they have, so that everybody, just like they did in Acts 2. So how can a Christian disagree with this? I mean, it's basically what the church was born in Acts 2 with, right? Okay, the Republican would then come back and say, well, we do need to help the poor. I'm with you with that. We do. We need to. We need to find ways and effective ways to do that. But it's the church's job, not the government's job, at least not mostly the government's job. It's the church's. The church was not a government. The church was the church, and so they're the ones that need to be helping the poor. okay? And I'm going to argue with myself for a second, okay, if you don't mind. Socialism is wrong because the point is that everything that was going on in Acts chapter 2 was by choice. They chose to do it. It wasn't enforced upon them by the government. They chose to give everyone as they had need. They weren't taxed to do so. Does that make sense? What if I had all your bank accounts, right? It came time for offering, and I know what each one of you guys make. And so, because you've reported to me, the IRS Mikey, okay? And you don't even have to come up here. I'm just going to deduct your tithe and put it in here. How would you feel about that? That would totally take away the whole point of being a cheerful giver. Would it not? It would take away the point of giving. That is socialism. That's something that is forced upon you by a government versus God saying, hey, check out that guy over there. He needs some help. Would you give what you have to help that guy? And out of your own heart, you give to them. Okay, that's definitely one thing. But to which could argue with this, the church is too disorganized, Mikey, to help poverty. Look at them. They're all squabbling over the same people. They got millions of dollars coming in, but they don't have any coordinated attack. The only way we could help all the poor people is if we took a government and did it, that way. And they have a point. I actually had a dream one time whenever I was standing up by Andy Ann's in Amarillo, and I was sitting there talking with Barack Obama. And it's the weirdest dream. And I was like, Barack, come on, man. Why are you a Democrat, dude? And he's like, well, we care about the poor. And I was like, well, we care about the poor. And I said, it's the church's job. He's like, yeah. Is the church ready to do that? And I was like, I'm going to get back with you on that one, Barack. So you can see this tension. Can you see that? Do you feel this tension? That it's the church's job is not to be enforced by a government. However, we are not organized enough, and we don't even play well with the other churches sometimes to make a coordinated attack and help the poor. I'm arguing with myself up here. Okay. Next point for Democrats. Okay. The Constitution has to change and adapt to the needs of the times. It was a document written 200 plus years ago at a time, by the way, when slavery was legal. We have changed, we have evolved, so the Constitution must as well. And I would say this, many of my Democrat/liberal friends also say the Bible has to change as well. Don't be hating. They say that too was a time and an era when slavery was legal, when women suffrage was a big, was a problem, and women were seen as property. And there's a lot that goes into that I don't got time to go into tonight, which changes the whole perspective. But a lot of historical context that would help you understand that. So the Bible too changes. When it talks about homosexuality and things like this, maybe we can kind of throw out some of those verses, and because the New Testament kind of replaces all that. And after all, Jesus didn't really say anything about homosexuality. Paul did, but we don't really like Paul so much. That's a whole other issue for another day. The Constitution, on the other hand, Republicans believe the Constitution doesn't change, shouldn't change, because it holds everything together. It is kind of our core values of what we deem as important, right? And if that changes, then everything goes to crap, right? Does that make sense? Like, for instance, for Christians on the conservative side of theology, which tend to line up with the conservative side and Republican side of politics, tend to, not always, would say the Bible is our basis of faith and conduct. And if you start changing and monkeying around with the scriptures and with the Bible, then you can you can do whatever the heck you want to do. You can change the Bible to say whatever you want it to, and to which we believe that, on this side, that if God created the Bible, that it is perfect as it is, and we don't have to change the Bible. Okay, about immigration. Let's go back over here. We are a nation of immigrants. We can't shut off the borders of our free nation. Let's look at Leviticus for a second. I told you I had verses for Democrats, all right? Leviticus 19:34. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as a native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 25:35. Now, in the case of countrymen of yours become poor, and its means, in case a countryman of yours becomes poor, and his means with regard to you falter, then you are to sustain him, take care of him, welfare, right? Like a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. You take him into your house. Take care of your brothers. The one was a foreigner. This one's somebody who fell in hard times. Hebrews, this is New Testament now, 13:2. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing, some have entertained strangers or have entertained angels unaware, without even knowing about it. Not entertained angels' underwear, but entertained angels unaware. They didn't know they were doing them, okay? To which, again, the Republican would then at that point say, hold on, again, church's job, individuals' jobs, not government's job. To which they would say, why are we compartmentalizing? It should be over everything. Good point, okay? We're supposed to build bridges, not walls, How can a Christian say we should keep refugees, force them to stay over there in a war-torn country to be massacred? You just talked about abortion, and now you're trying to keep kids from coming over, and find rest within our borders. Why would we keep them out? We should be open to everyone, because if people just come over here and see our ways and see how much fun we're having and how good everything is, then they'll want to be like us, and they won't want to create war over here. If they are willing to go by our Constitution and not change our Constitution and use, the U.S., but rather blend into this melting pot like all the rest of us kind of did, and be a law-abiding citizen, then yeah, come on over. Ultimately, we can't help anyone if we aren't stable ourselves. Again, sovereign borders. We can't help anybody. It's just like when I was on the airplane last week, and they said, if we're in the event of a crash and the oxygen mask comes down, Mom, you put the oxygen mask on first so that then you'll be able to help your baby. But if you're trying to help your baby and you run out of air, now you lose both of them. Without sovereign borders, basically we don't have any power or place to help anyone else. I.e., we're seeing this in Europe as Islam not melting in with the other, Sharia laws kind of coming over. There's over 100 no-go zones in Paris alone where police and firefighters can't even go in there because it's run by Sharia law, Islam, and it's bad news bears. Okay, all right, back over here. On poverty. Let's go back to poverty for a second. They'd say, as a Democrat Christian, I believe the government is here to help the poor. Again, with Matthew 25. In fact, Old Testament farmers would leave the corners of their field for the poor to come and the widows to come and take. And the rich 1% control 90% of the wealth. That's wrong, they say. This is unfair, and the privilege should be taxed higher so that those who don't have as much can have more, could have more. And that would be fair. Democrats would say we want equality. Equality is a really big word. Fair, very big word for Democrats, right? They want to see that everyone is on the same playing ground and it has been given a fair shake, right? And that is important, right? Everybody needs to play by the same rules, right? Which is why, and I don't even know if Republicans agree with me on this one, but that's why I think a percent tax would be better for everybody pays 10% or whatever percent, right? So if I'm paying, and I make this much money, I'm only paying this much, and if I'm making this much money and I'm paying 10% of that, 10% is 10% across the board, right? Everybody pays 10 or whatever percent, I don't know. Even Republicans don't agree with me on that one sometimes, so that's okay. It just seems like the fairest equalizer to me. Republicans say yes. Sorry. We do believe in equality, but we believe in equal opportunity, not equal outcome. Okay, so over here, we know that they've had a fair shake if at the end of the day, both guys have the same amount of money. I give Joe and I give Bob the same tools, and I give them the same everything, and at the end of the day, if they make the same amount of money, then we gave them a fair deal. To where the Republican would say, well, sorry, but Bob worked harder than Bill, And so he made more money, you know what I'm saying? To which they would say, well, then we need to take from Bob and give to make it equal out. Right? So the Christian Republican says equal opportunity. And where would we get that from? Not a forever entitlement or assistance program. That actually, if you do the research, it actually keeps people in poverty. My brother, for instance, probably hate that I'm sharing this, but lost his job. And had to, and he got on unemployment. He got on unemployment. He said, man, I ate better with unemployment than I ate when I was working my butt off 40, 60 hours a week. And so I'm looking for, he didn't find a job for a year. Finally, after a year, he finds a job. And he's like, man, I almost didn't want to get that job because it was easier just to be taking from unemployment. So in some regards, just being given something from the Republican point of view, a Christian point of view, says just being given stuff actually makes me not want to do anything. It gives me no help. In fact, whenever Macy had a problem with her urinary tract infection, she kept having these over and over and over again. And we didn't have insurance. We didn't have enough money from the Wesley, and so they put us on CHIP, which is a government assistance, and man, we had all kinds of things paid for. We didn't have to worry about anything. The board says, Mikey, we need to get you insurance. Holy cow. They give me a $12,000 raise. I get a $12,000 raise. Now it puts me in another tax bracket. We lose CHIP, and now we are in debt, $2,000 right now, because we're always paying hospital things because things come up. So I'm saying, maybe it would be better to just be given things. It would be hard. I almost told the board, hey, take that $12,000 away. I would rather not have it than to be like just paying out bleeding out the nose. So on this side, let's just keep giving and giving and giving. From this point of view, doesn't help. It actually holds people down in generational poverty rather than helping get them ramped up. It would be the same thing as if we went on a mission trip and we came in with all this stuff. We just started giving everything away and we crashed the local economy. There's actually a book called When Helping Hurts. And it was made because missionaries were going in and they were totally trying to help. They were trying to help, and they totally destroyed local economies because the guy who was selling, sheep or whatever, his economy totally broke, and he went into poverty because these missionaries were just giving and giving and giving. So I think from the Republican point of view, the Christian's point of view, not a Republican and equal to Christian, but a Christian who happens to be a Republican would say there needs to be some kind of a ramp up, not a forever just going to keep on shelling out more and more money. We need to help people get out of poverty. In fact, 2 Thessalonians 3:10, so I got some scriptures on this side now. Say, for even when we were with you, we gave you this rule: one who's unwilling to work should not eat. Well, that's harsh, Mikey. Proverbs 6 says, go to the ant. Consider the ant, thou sluggard. Sluggard means lazy guy. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores up its provisions in the summer, and it gathers its food for the harvest. How long will you lie there, you sluggard, lazy person? When will you get up from your sleep? You just going to sleep in all the time? My mom used to tell me this all the time. She'd always quote this at me. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands. Yeah, Mom, I know. And poverty, what does it say, will come on you like a thief. And guess what? Scarcity or victim mentality like an armed man. And will never get up. In fact, we're hurting people when all we do is give and we don't help them get out of it. And maybe start out by giving, you're having hard times, man, here, let's help you out, and then give you a little less next time. Okay, now you work with me here. Okay, now work with me. You know what I'm saying? And ramp it up. Maybe that's oversimplistic. I don't know. But I think there's other ways to do it. There's got to be a ladder of opportunity. And if you'll work with me this much, then I'll give you this much. And then if you work with me this much, then okay, then we'll work together, and we're going to get you out of this poverty. But So, and in fact, research also goes in to show if you redistributed all the money, believe it or not, go research this yourself. Fact check me, please. Don't fat check me. Fact check me. If you go up and pinch my fat, I'm going to be mad. If you were to redistribute all the wealth of the entire world, Many economists say that within 5 years, it would be right back where it went. Why? Because poverty is a mindset. It's not just, oh, so-and-so didn't have this and so-and-so did. That might be the start of it, but there's a reason why millionaires, many millionaires lose all their money 3 or 4 times and become millionaires again because they do things different than I do. I haven't become a millionaire yet. I'll let you know when I do. Maybe I won't. Yeah. Okay, so there's all kinds of other issues. There's, support of Israel, there's economy and stuff like that. But what I want to leave with you tonight is this. If we are going to quit, we got to quit losing friends. Amen? We got to learn to disagree agreeably. We got to quit slapping each other in the face and saying, you're not even a Christian if you vote for Hillary. You're not even a Christian if you vote for Trump. I don't even respect you. I'm quitting. If you're going to vote for Trump, just remove me from your Facebook feed. If you're going to vote for Hillary, then just delete me already. It's like, really? Christians just cutting each other off like that? Is that what? Okay, then if that's how it's going to be, then please don't get involved with politics, okay? But if you can be responsible and mature and you can talk with somebody that just is totally a different view than you, then please, it is our responsibility. Read that blog tomorrow. My challenge for you tonight is this. I don't have an altar call, but I do have a challenge for you. Research anything that you're going to read. Never repost anything unless you have read the whole article and then you've looked up several sources to make sure that that isn't some kind of crazy spun thing from one news channel or another. And you do the research yourself. And if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to commit to that, don't even read the article, just scroll right past it, forget about it.